Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Tiffany, and I'm going to take you on our adventure of the world of rays today. But if you would like to participate and you are watching this live, so today is Wednesday, June 15th at 9 a.m. We'll end around 9:30 a.m. So if you're watching this live, go ahead and text us in any questions or maybe observations that you have while we're going on this adventure today studying rays. That number is 562-286-1838. Now, if you are watching the recording, we would still love to hear from you. But instead of texting us, please email us at live@lbaop.org. And we will leave those up for you during the program so that you are able to either text us or email us if you're watching the recording of this program. All right, friends, we are learning today about rays. Now, you might know a lot about sharks. And most of the knowledge you know about sharks, you can apply to rays. They are related to one another. Let's take a look. This is our large, big tropical exhibit that we have here at the aquarium. Do you see any rays? Ooh, here's an eagle ray right here. How nice of it to just kind of swim by the camera like that. Do you see any other rays? Or maybe even some sharks? We see a lot of fish, huh? So, kind of my first question, there's that eagle ray again. My first question, if you were able to spot a ray, and I actually did see a ray earlier as I was talking, kind of swimming around over here. If you saw a ray and you were able to spot and say, hey, that is a ray. I know that's a ray and not just some other kind of fish. My first question to you is, what is a ray? How were you, here we have a cow nose ray. So, and a shark. So how were you able to tell that all of these things are just regular fish, that was a shark, and those were rays? How were you able to tell the difference between those animals? Oh yes, now that eagle ray is just coming around on loop. So how were you able to tell the difference? What makes a ray a ray? And its long tail there. So I already gave away one of kind of the clues or the hints that rays are related to sharks. So the type of scales that they have are the same, even if a ray and a shark feel a little bit different. If you've ever come to the aquarium and have been able to pet a ray or a shark, they feel a little bit different, but they do have the same type of scales. Those scales are called dermal denticles. Yes, this is a great picture of those dermal denticles. That means dermal, think of like the dermatologist, that is a doctor for your skin, and denticles, it's kind of like the word dentist, the doctor for your teeth. So skin, teeth, look at these scales. They look like a bunch of tiny little teeth. Now, how does that benefit a shark or a ray? These scales help them to be a little bit more hydrodynamic. Let them swim through the water just a little bit easier and with just a little less drag as they are swimming through the water. But there's a really cool adaptation that they have that helps them swim even better. And it's actually what's underneath this skin. Go ahead and feel your arm. You can feel your bone inside of your arm, right? Yeah. And guess what? All of these fish have hard bones like you and me. Sharks and rays, when another one swims by, go ahead and check out how it swims. Does it swim like these fish? These fish are kind of like, or does it swim a little bit different? So they are going to be swimming a little bit different. Yeah, check out this ray right down here. It's got a lot more movement. Yes. our rays and our sharks have a lot more movement, either like this if they are a ray or like this if they are a shark, because their bones aren't hard bones like ours, are hard bones like the other fish that are in this exhibit, but rather their bones are made out of cartilage. Now we have some cartilage too. Go ahead, take one finger and wiggle the tip of your nose. Now take the other one and wiggle your ear here. That is cartilage. Look at how flexible your ear is, or the tip of your nose. Super, super flexible. So sharks and rays are called cartilaginous fish. Instead of being bony fish, having bones like you, me, and the other fish, they have cartilage. So that's super, super soft bones. That helps them to be a little bit lighter in the water, but also a lot more flexible. This is that eagle ray that we were looking at in our big tropical exhibit, the one that was swimming on by. But it also brings up another thing, another point that I want to bring up of what makes a ray a ray. Can you spot this ray's gills? Check out right along here. You can see some little lines, and yeah, look at this cow nose ray. You could check out their gills right here, just like a shark. So a shark is going to have their gills on the side, but the rays are going to have their gills underneath. So here's a shark, and we see that it has 5 gill slits here, right on the side. Water goes in the mouth and out through the gills. Same idea with the rays. Water goes in through the mouth and out through these 5 gill slits here. But instead of having them on the side, they have them underneath, where their mouth also is. Now let's take a look at that first eagle ray picture again, and let's look inside that mouth. Do you see teeth inside that mouth? When we saw that great white shark, we definitely saw some nice triangular teeth, right? I see kind of some bumps. Let's take a closer look at some ray jaws. I actually have some on my document camera. This looks weird, doesn't it? I often have people think that this looks like snake skin, and yeah, the pattern really does look like snake skin. This is kind of the whole jaw in relation to my hand there. But these are the teeth of the ray. And notice, wow, they are completely flat. What could you use those flat teeth for? And Isabella just texted us in and is curious, what do these rays eat? That is an excellent question. So with flat teeth like this, what can a ray eat? We have some flat teeth and we have some spiky teeth, and all those teeth are kind of used for different things. What could a flat teeth be used for? And also, keep in mind that their mouth is on the bottom of their bodies. A lot of sharks have their mouths facing forward, but ray mouths are on the bottom. And you know what? Where do you normally see a lot of rays hanging out? I tend to see them hanging out down on the sandy bottom of the ocean floor, right? So mouths are on the bottom. They're hanging out towards the bottom. Yeah, they're hanging out towards the bottom. They have these flat teeth. So they're probably finding their food down in the sand. What do you think they could be finding down in the sand that they could actually eat with these flat teeth? Take a look at these teeth again. So flat. So these rays definitely aren't taking big bites of meat, right? Like a shark could, some sharks could, but rather they're going to be sifting through the sand, trying to find things in shells, different kinds of invertebrates in shells. And then these flat teeth just crunch up the shell. They can spit out the shell and then swallow and eat the meat that is inside the shell. So they might be eating clams. They might be eating shrimp. They might even be eating crabs That eagle ray that we saw earlier, yeah, that one can definitely eat some crabs. So with these flat teeth that the rays have, they are going to crunch up those shells, spit out the shells, and swallow the meat whole. Now that's a little bit different than maybe some sharks that you've experienced before. Maybe you've seen some sharks with more triangular teeth and you know that they eat meat in different ways. There are some sharks that are more bottom dwellers, kind of like a ray, but their teeth are still going to look different. These flat teeth are pretty uniquely ray. Pretty interesting. Okay, so what makes a ray a ray? To recap, we learned that they are kind of a flattened out shark. Definitely pancake. We learned that they are cartilaginous, meaning they have squishy bones, right? Like our ears and the tip of our nose. They have gills. We saw their lovely set of gills. They have a weird set of jaws. But while we're on this picture, something else that makes a ray, at least for some of them, is a stinger, right? So some rays we sometimes call stingrays, right? And rays that do have a sting, not all of them have it, but you're going to find those stings closer towards the base of their body, not at the tip of their tail. So some of them have really long tails, but you're going to find it right over here. And those stingers are used for defense. So they don't use it to capture their food or anything. If they're scared that they are going to be eaten, that is when they can use that as a defense. That's a pretty cool adaptation that they have as a defense, because otherwise they're kind of just a little meat pancake swimming around in the ocean, right? They got to have some defense. Sometimes they can have a little bit of camouflage. They can hide in the sand. So that's an adaptation that they have, but that stinger is a really good adaptation to help protect themselves from being eaten by a predator. Now, we saw some adorable cow nose rays as we were looking through some of the pictures there. Cow nose rays are a species that we have here at the aquarium, and they are a tropical species. Yeah, I love these ones. I think that their little face is just so cute. They are one of my favorites. And they are very, very energetic. If you come to the aquarium, this is actually a species that you are able to pet. We have them in our Shark Lagoon touch pool, and with a gentle 2 fingers, you are able to pet this species of ray. There are a couple of others, but these are the ones that are really swimming around, and they're a pretty acrobatic species. Even out in the ocean, they can be doing different acrobats of jumping out and doing belly flops and all sorts of things, and even here at the aquarium, you see them get pretty active, pretty rowdy from time to time. We also have a shark and ray encounter where you could actually feed these before the aquarium even opens, which I think is pretty cool. They are such a cool species. Now, just like we saw before with that jaw, they are going to have those completely flat teeth and look for food that is located on the bottom of the sea floor. But something that is pretty unique and interesting about this species is that they migrate. So you might have heard or seen before that fish swim in schools. So some fish do swim in large groups together because there is strength in numbers, right? If a predator comes, they can't eat the whole entire school, but maybe just a couple, and so there's strength in numbers. Now, migration means kind of like when your family goes maybe on a summer vacation and you travel to somewhere where you don't live, right? So rays do this annual migration, and there could be 10,000 of these cow nose rays all swimming together in this migration. Again, think of it as like going on vacation. That's pretty wild. Could you imagine snorkeling or maybe scuba diving and seeing 10,000 of these rays swimming around? And just for kind of scale, cow nose rays are about yay big. They aren't a super giant ray. But sometimes when people come to the aquarium and maybe see like our eagle ray is pretty large. Our eagle ray is more like this big, very big. Sometimes when people see that eagle ray, they say, ooh, manta, that's a manta ray. Now, we don't have any manta rays here at the aquarium, but manta rays are a really large ray. Yeah. this is a manta ray. Now I know when you're just looking at a picture and there's just a bunch of blue around, it's hard to tell. How big is this animal? Is this animal this big? This big? This big? Bigger than the room I'm in? So manta rays can get from wing to wing over 20 feet long. This is a very, very large animal. Check this video of this manta ray swimming around above a coral reef. Now it is definitely way too big to hang out in the coral reef like some of these little fish, but it's hanging out just above and around this coral reef. Now because it's hanging out in a coral reef, that tells us that this manta ray likes warm water. So this is a warm tropical area. Wow. Look at it swim. Now this ray doesn't eat like the other rays that I have been talking about. Because if we were to look inside the mouth of this huge ray, we would not find those flat teeth that I was talking about before. This ray doesn't hang out on the bottom of the seafloor sifting through the sand looking for food, but rather it filter feeds. Have you heard of that before? There are a number of large animals, surprisingly large animals, that eat plankton in the ocean. So even though this is a huge animal, it is eating teeny, tiny little plankton, either little plant material or little animals that are swimming around in the water. Sometimes we can't even see it with our naked eyes, or we really got to pay attention to how small some of these little planktons can be. But they will swim around with their mouth open, and we can see these huge gills here. So just like the gills of the sharks and the other rays that we looked at, these are providing that same function. They're just much larger because this is a much larger animal. But it'll just swim around with its mouth open. And as water is going into its mouth, there are tiny little animals, little plankton in that water that it is going to eat and kind of filter through the water and then get the food out of that water. So pretty crazy that this huge animal is eating teeny tiny little things. Now, I know that we see a lot of pictures and videos of this animal kind of hanging out these coral reefs, right? But something that's unique about this ray is that most of its time it is pelagic. That means that it is hanging out in the open ocean. So look at this picture here. We see over here, blue. Down here, blue. Over there, blue. So that just tells us that it is in the open ocean. Nothing is around. If you were diving here in this location, look in this direction and all you would see is blue. Over here, over there, down, up. All you see is blue because it is open ocean. So not near a coral reef or a kelp forest or near the sandy bottom or anything like that. Most of the time this animal is hanging out just in the wide open, which makes sense since it is such a large animal. It can't really fit in a coral reef, right? But something that while we are looking at the bottom, I want to point out, do you notice the color of its kind of underside area? Yeah, you can really see it here. So what's the color of the underside here? White, right? Versus, look at the top. It looks either dark gray or almost black, right? Pretty dark up here on top. This is a form of camouflage called countershading. Have you heard of that before? You might have heard of the word camouflage, and you might be thinking, wait, Tiffany, camouflage means an animal can blend into its area. But I can clearly see this manta ray. It's not blending into anything. But think about this. By having a dark back, if you were scuba diving or snorkeling and you look down, when you look down into the ocean, it all just looks kind of dark, right? There's not a lot of light as you look deeper down into the ocean. So by having an animal with a dark back, it kind of just blends in to the darkness of the bottom of the ocean. But having a light belly, if you were swimming underneath this animal and you look up, oh my goodness, the sun is so bright. So by having a light belly, that helps that animal to kind of blend in with the brightness of the sun up above. Now, can you think of any other ocean animals that have this color pattern of having a light belly and a dark back? Go ahead and text us in that 562-286-1838. Can you think of any other ocean animals that have that same color pattern? It's called countershading, and it helps as an animal is just kind of swimming through the water, helps them to kind of blend in if an animal is above them or below them. So yeah, go ahead, text us in if you know of any other ocean animals that have that countershading, light bellies, dark backs. And I'll mention some more at the end of the program as well. But here you can really see that big open mouth that they just swim around to filter feed in food. And take a look in that mouth. You see any teeth? No, not even flat teeth like our cow nose ray friend. They don't need teeth when they are eating those teeny tiny little planktons. Now, we have explored a couple of cool different types of rays. We saw the eagle ray, the manta ray, we looked at the cow nose ray. Those are all warm water species. But there are rays even in our cold waters as well. There are rays all around the earth, and they all need our help. Many of the shark and ray species are endangered. And actually, 5 out of the 7 shark and ray species that are endangered are rays. Check out these rays here. These are some cold water species of rays. These are some bat rays. So these are some rays that I could find if I'm in Long Beach right now. If I just ran and jumped into the water and started swimming around, I could probably find some bat rays. So this is a cold water species, and also you can see that counter shading again. Light belly, dark top. But rays need our help. So there's a lot of conservation projects that are going on for sharks, because sharks play a very important role in our ocean's ecosystems. But sometimes rays, even though they are related, kind of get left out of those talks, get left out of those programs, get left out of the picture, even though they are also endangered. So they need people like you and me to talk about them, to raise awareness about the problem so that they also get protected. Now, there is a type of rays called the rhino ray, and I'm actually putting Jen on the spot to put up a picture. Oh, there we go. A rhino ray. And so I mentioned before that many species of ray are endangered. Now, there's different levels of animals being endangered. Sometimes they could be threatened, endangered, and if their population's really, really in trouble, they can be critically endangered. That's really, really bad. That means that their population numbers are very, very small around the world or wherever that they live. Now, there are different species of rhino ray. I think it's about 17, and about 15 of those species are critically endangered, meaning that they are really, really in trouble and could really use our help. Now, take a look at this mouth. What do you notice about this rhino ray's mouth? Go ahead and text in some of your observations. We also... Ooh, we're getting some texts in about that counter shading, and Katie says that sharks also have that type of camouflage. Yes, you are right. Think about that great white picture that we saw earlier. Yes, dark on top and light on bottom. Now this top here is kind of a grayish color, right? So not as dark as that ray we saw, but this is still counter shading, having that dark top and light belly underneath. Exactly. So rays have that counter shading, sharks have that counter shading. Are there any other animals that live in the ocean or sometimes hang out in the ocean that you can think of that have this countershading? Go ahead and text us in. We have a couple of minutes left. Yes, perfect. Back to this rhino ray. These teeth. Ooh, someone texted in that it has bumpy teeth. Oh, yeah. Definitely bumpy. Definitely not like these flat teeth that we saw earlier with our cow nose ray, right? So do you think, so this animal, its mouth is on the bottom like other rays that we've seen, but its teeth are weird and bumpy. Do you think it's eating the same thing even though its teeth are different? What do you think? Go ahead and text us in. What do you think this animal is eating? So keep in mind, its mouth is on the bottom. So it's probably, since it's like sharks have their mouth in front, they can kind of grab things that are in front of them. So this one with a mouth on the bottom still has to find food that is underneath it, right? But having those weird bumpy teeth, do you think it can eat the same things as the ray with the flat teeth? What could these bumpy teeth be used for, either the same or different? It's kind of interesting to think about. You can tell a lot about what an animal eats, but also its kind of lifestyle by the placement of its mouth, either below, above, or kind of pointing up, and its teeth. Now, I will tell you, this ray is going to have a very similar diet to some of the other rays that we have already looked at and talked about. Not the manta ray, because that manta ray filter feeds, right? But this ray is going to hang out on the bottom of the seafloor, just like we see it doing right now, and kind of sift through the sand to find things in hard shells, so invertebrates, animals that don't have bones on the inside like we do, right? But rather protect themselves with a hard outer shell. And it can still use those hard, bumpy teeth to crack open those shells and swallow the meat inside, just like those other rays that we have been talking about. But now, check out this pattern on this animal. So we did see its underside. It is white all underneath, and we do see that it's dark on top, so this is a type of countershading. But check out the pattern on this animal. What do you think is the benefit of having this pattern? Where do you think this animal is spending most of its time? Where do you think it's hanging out? And also, does this animal look like the other rays that we've been looking at today? To me, it almost looks like an in-between of like part ray, part shark, right? Because we start to see some of those fins that are more characteristically shark. So that's why this is kind of a little separate category of rhino ray. They aren't like a stingray, like the cow nose rays that we saw, but kind of like a little in-between animal. So we could see those fins, lots of fins like our shark friends have, versus the rays are just kind of all flat, don't have any pointed up fins, and more so have the two fins or wings kind of on the side to swim around. But this one is going to swim a little bit more like a shark. And if you were to touch this animal, kind of feel a little bit more like a shark. I talked about before how sharks and rays have the same type of scales but feel different. That is because the rays have a layer of mucus. So if you come to the aquarium and touch a shark, might feel a little rough. Touch a ray, might feel a little bit slimy. Ooh, yes, this is another one of those rays that if you are at the aquarium could potentially touch in our shark lagoon. All right, friends, we are just about out of time talking about the world of rays, but we would still love to hear from you. But instead of texting us, please email us. So if you have any questions or observations, anything about rays or anything about the aquarium, really, go ahead and email us at live@lbaop.org. All right, friends. It's been so fun talking about rays with you. If you are interested, stick around at 10 o'clock. We will have a program about babies in Spanish. But until next time, see you guys. Have a great rest of your day.